Good evening and welcome to the October 1st meeting of the Barrington Plan.
Suchi here. Happy LOI.
Jesse, aye.
Driscoll, aye. This evening's meeting, Mr. Shepherd will be a full voting member. Also with us, we have Laura Spector, attorney, Josh Bouchard from CMA, Mr. Price, town planner, and the order of business is review and approval of the minutes from September 17th, 2020. Comments?
Make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
All please.
Abstain. Listen here.
Jesse, aye.
Driscoll, aye. Okay, that's done. Next, we have staff updates with the town.
Just to keep this on your radar, we have a couple of training opportunities coming up that I've been mentioning the last few weeks. The Northeast chapter for APA conference and the NHMA 83rd annual conference. I do have some things to address in other business, so I'll bring it up then so we can get to the applications.
Thank you. Next order of business, item 5, preliminary consultation. First item, 239-35-V-22, 17 lots, pending pavement. Preliminary consultation for an amendment. Would you like to speak to that?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Paul from Beals Associates.
I'm sorry.
She's green. Good evening, everyone. Scott from Beals Associates. Here with me is Jason White, owner of the property, and the site contractor as well, Mike Sanborn. So to brief the board real quickly on the Malibu Road subdivision, or Bending Brook subdivision, excuse me. It had recently been paved throughout the summer, and it was determined that the actual pavement mix did not meet their criteria listed on the plans. There's a slight difference in the criteria of the pavement mix that they used in paving the material versus what is on the plans. It's a slight difference between the two. Now, I myself am not a pavement expert. I know Josh knows more about pavement than I do. So I had Christian Smith actually look it up for me in general terms, the difference between the two pavement mixes, so people can understand it. So the pavement mix that they put down and paved it with the required thickness is used for minor and major residential streets, collectors, arterials, and highways. So it's made for a heavier, denser base use. The material that is spec'd and should have been used, which is the 50 GR, used for very low volume pavements such as parking lots, trails, and minor residential streets. So they are both pertaining to subdivisional residential uses. One has a different structure than the other one does in regards of how it reacts with truck and long-term heavier use. So it seems like there is two options in dealing with Josh, Mark, and the client. I believe the first issue that was brought up or resolution would be to strip out all the pavement in the subdivision and relay it with the correct pavement mix. The second option would be to, I believe, leave it as it stands today. And the site contractor has offered to overlay it with 2 inches of top versus the 1.5 required. Then you'd have an extra thick roadway at the end of the day, which I can say is probably better than some of the roads that we actually have in town now. So, Josh, feel free to elaborate if I missed something, but I think that's basically where we stand.
Yeah, those are the two options. There is more to the different paving mixes than what was elaborated. The town spec material has more asphalt in it, which is the glue that holds everything together. So the more glue you have, the more flexible it is. This also has more virgin asphalt, which is a higher quality than recycled asphalt. There's a couple of minor differences as well, but those are the two primary ones. So the town has found that the town spec is more durable and lasts longer, which is why the town uses it. However, if the town is willing to accept the pavement that was installed, there are some measures that can be taken to help ensure that there's less risk on the town, which is installing the extra half inches of pavement, waiting until construction is done to install the wearing course, and then having the maintenance bond extended for, instead from 2 years to 5 years. Generally, if something's going to happen, it's going to be likely within that 0 to 5 year period. So in the end, it is the town's decision or the planning board's decision on what your preference is, but there are two potential fast forwards.
Thank you. Would have any questions?
And if I could just chime in, they're here for a preliminary consultation because if you all find either of these options acceptable, the subdivision plan will need to be amended. So that's why they're here for a preliminary consultation to determine which you'd prefer so they can amend their plan.
I had a question for Josh. Do we have any experience of the town in dealing with something like this?
No, this, as far as I know, has not happened before.
Were you present when they started laying the?
Our rep was out on site. So the day before, Mike Sanborn, the contractor, and Emma Johnson, who's the rep, they went over the mix design. She pointed out the differences in the mix. Said, look at the pavement notes that are part of the roadway typical. And on the day of the paving, it still says like 19 millimeter pavement. So unless you specifically ask the question, is this the right mix? You're not going to notice it by looking at the pavement slip. And where they went over the day before, didn't think that's the question.
Sure. Come up. You got to be on the mic. We're recording this. Thanks.
So I'm Mike Sanborn with Mike Sanborn Excavating. The day before we put the mix down, I had sent a text message to Emma asking her which mix the town preferred. So I build probably 3 to 4 roads a year with multiple towns. And some towns prefer a winter mix, and some towns prefer a 3/4 standard binder. So I asked Emma, do you prefer a tighter winter mix or a standard 3/4 binder? And it does say in the spec that it's a winter mix. So in my interpretation of that, a winter mix has more asphalt in it. So when you guys wait 2 years to accept the road, the more asphalt helps the water shed, because that's why they call it a winter mix. Where a standard 3/4 binder is a little stronger and a little more porous, so some water can get in there. So when I asked Emma which mix she preferred, the town prefers, whether it was a tighter mix, winter mix, or a standard 3/4 binder, she replied back, here's the specs, which I didn't read the specs. And she said, a standard 3/4 binder. So that's kind of how this all occurred.
So you were asking about two different projects, though, because you were paving the crossings project as well. And the
No,
way
I was asking specifically about this project. We had already paved the other project across town, and we did use the 3/4, standard 3/4 base on village crossings. So just to reiterate, certain towns don't even put a spec in there. It just says 3/4 binder. There's no spec on the binder. Like I have multiple approved plans in my truck right now that does not give a spec on the binder at all. It's just 2.5 inches of 3/4 type D binder. So it's a little different where you guys are requiring a winter binder. It's not very often that this happens. The only other time I've had it come up is the town of Epping requires it that I know of.
And could you clarify who Emma is?
So Emma works for Josh, CMA.
Yeah, she's a site rep.
She's the site rep.
Josh, could you complete your thought that you had started?
Oh, in that text exchange between the two of them, she specifically pointed out the notes that
She did.
show the pavement specs.
Yeah, she did specifically point out the notes, and then I didn't read the notes as my fault for sure. But like I said, I did say, is this a standard 3/4 binder? And she said, yes.
I had a question on the intersection with Malago Road.
Yeah.
That seems to be an issue. And if you add more pavement,
So
it just makes the issue more difficult.
it's not really, it's standard practice that when you put a binder down, you put down more binder because you're not gonna have so like right now, they just ground at the intersection of Route 9 and Route 125 to abut the pavement. So there's a hard dip there. So in 2 years from now, when we top it, we're not gonna leave a hard dip at the end of the road for 2 years. So what you do is you put down more base binder and then you grind it just like they just did down the road, grind it. So when you bring in your top, it matches the road that's there existing. It's pretty standard practice. I mean, we do it
Okay,
every
we didn't
day.
get an answer on that when we asked the question about it.
Yeah.
So we didn't know what your plan was.
Yeah. Like I said, it's standard construction practice. I figured you guys were out there and witnessed before we paved and gave us an okay on the fine grading. So you would have seen that we had, the edge of the pavement was down 4 or 5 inches. That's right. That's my position.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any
So-
other public comment?
Sure, come forward.
Daniel here, I'm an ex-selectman in town. Invest a lot of time and money in this town. I learned to be observationist. I don't get 5% for overlook things. And I've been blessed and cursed in my life. I've done a lot of nightmare work and people calling me to fix other people's mistakes and stuff. In the course of the summer, without their permission, I went in on that property and watched them, their work. I don't know these people, no financial gain from them. I did observation and stuff, and quality work. And I went out there today. I didn't see any boring holes on the mix and stuff. Reading this. The reason I'm here today, I got so many phone calls, not from the people who own it or the developer, but residents, of all these crazy ideas. They're gonna shut it, to rip it all out. They're not gonna give me any building permits. So I went downtown hall, got the information that you guys have today, so I know where I'm coming from. So just justify some of the phone calls I got. But the reason I'm here, I watched all the construction and went on their site and there. They didn't cut any corners. That pavement, I believe, I'm not a licensed engineer and stuff. I'm an observationist. There's nothing wrong with that pavement. And everything's gonna fail and everything. Where's your proof and stuff? The mix is wrong. And since today's October 1st, I believe, you don't need engineers' consent to be doing top coat and everything. They want pavement there. So by adding the extra cost and putting an extra time frame on, I don't see why. I think it'll meet the things. I think you put a burden on them. And I like consistency and stuff. And I don't see this. And there's a lot of frustrations I have with this town. Projects never get done, overlooked and stuff. So to verify my own personal, so I can sleep at night, I go do observations and stuff. If I don't see something right, I will say something. I see nothing wrong with this project. And if you guys put unnecessary burden on them, I think you'll end up in court.
Josh, could you go over the two options again? Mhm. Sure. Oh, okay.
If there's anybody online that would like to public comment for or against the case file, if you could raise your hand or put yourself off mute if you'd like to comment, we'll give you a moment. Mr. Chairman, I don't see anybody wants to make a public comment on this.
Would Mark like to?
Oh, Mark Moreau is our road agent. He is online. Mark, would you like to make any comment?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the option of putting the extra half-inch of mix down but waiting the extra amount of time, as Josh has described, I think would be all right. And the binder that's there really needs to be sealed up after it, before or after its second winter. The stuff just ain't made to stay out in the weather for much more than 2 years. As far as the issue by the edge of Malago Road, I don't think that's as simple as grinding it back, because it's got to go back quite a ways. You put another 2 inches on that thing, it's going to jack it right up in the air. And I don't think you're going to be able to grind away enough to get the negative pitch that we're having or that we want and still end up with the thickness of pavement that you're after in the first place. I would be surprised if you can do it. That's all I have to say.
The plans from Malago to do, I know, once everything's done with the stormwater issues, is that going to be a complete rebuild at that point?
Malago Road itself? Yes, Malago Road will be fully reconstructed.
Fully reconstructed.
Yeah. And it looks like that's gonna be a phased project with the drainage happening first.
Yeah.
And then a full reconstruction. But who knows when that's gonna happen, because it's gonna be,
Okay, that
very
could be out,
expensive. It could be like 10 years from now, I mean, who knows?
Okay, all right. Anybody would like to discuss the two options? Let me close the public hearing. Two options that are suggested.
Well, I guess, Josh,
Yes, sir.
what is your opinion? Do you favor one over the other?
If the pavement is removed, the contractor has built it per the approved plans, and the contractor has done what he can to mitigate against any potential issues. Obviously, as we found on some roads, like Meeting House, for example, some issues don't crop up because there's so much excavation and filling and stuff that goes on with the construction project. Not all the issues become apparent until the project's done, because you change the groundwater flow paths and stuff like that. So, like I said, if the pavement's removed, reinstalled with the appropriate mix, then at this point, the contractor's done what he can do. The remedial solution would be to add the extra half-inch of pavement wearing course, and put 2 inches at 1.5 inches, extend the maintenance bond for 5 years, because more than likely, if there's going to be an issue, it's likely going to be within that 0 to 5 year period. And that would be a fair remedial solution that would minimize the town's risks and exposure.
Yeah, because I don't feel like I have the knowledge to make that decision, so really rely on you, your expertise.
You think that's the best solution?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have any concern about the entry angle that Mark?
Yes. I wasn't out there personally, so I'm not sure how much pavement was installed. But I agree with Mike that to get at 2 inches of pavement and to be able to grind back far enough to be able to get 2% negative pitch from Malago all the way back, you may not have enough pavement depth at the tail end of it to be able to grind all that out.
Would that be grinding down to the base material?
You're grinding down the base material.
In addition to the base? At that point to get the.
Well, they're removing 2 inches of pavement that's there now because basically they're flush at Malago Road.
Okay.
So they don't have a bump to get onto it.
Okay.
And the idea is you would grind some of it away, but I think where they're already at negative 2%, I don't think they can grind enough pavement out. They may not be able to grind the pavement out. I don't know if they put in 4 inches of pavement from Malago to like 50 feet back. Like I said, I wasn't out there, so I don't know for sure personally.
Okay.
And then we similarly dealt with this with Overlook Circle when that road, with the construction of that road, and there were some pretty significant failures, I believe, in that. I don't know about where that cropped up, but I know it was probably after the 5-year mark. And I know that one was a hotly contested item with what recourse the town had and how the town could actually handle it. So I don't know if Ernie has any commentary on that, how to make sure we don't end up in a similar situation here.
Yeah, Overlook was a different situation. This error was caught right away, right after the pavement went down, so that was good. It seems to me that what you're hearing from your experts is that while tearing it out and replacing it with the proper mix would be, in an ideal world, ideal, we all recognize the burden that would put on the developer, and this alternative option is the best remedial action that is fairest to everyone involved and does protect the town. So if your engineer is comfortable with it, I don't have any concern with it, particularly if there's going to be the extended bond.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, dig back in the files, and my file's not that good. I know Overlook was caught kind of late in the game.
Was.
And it was probably more, I think there was a combination of base material that was an issue with that one,
Yes.
as well as wear course.
That didn't come up until it was time for the town to accept the road.
Right.
So it was far, far into the process. I mean, the houses were built, people were living in them.
Right.
It was way into the process, and I think we had even partially released the bond. So it was just a giant mess. So yeah, it was way into the process, and I have cleared out my mental cabinet of that case. So I don't remember all the problems with the road.
Can the bond be held longer than the 2 years that is the guidance of our regulation?
We can do anything that everyone agrees to.
I'm assuming that agreement means you have consensus from developer this evening, and then you would say we're meeting, and then they would amend their site plan, and those specific requirements will be in the notes on the amended plan.
They will be conditions of approval, and I would think that in exchange for not tearing out the entire road, that would be fair consideration.
The list is A through G. I was thinking of adding an H, consult with the road agent, CMA regarding intersection issues in Meligo Road. Should we add that to the? So I'm going to, go ahead.
Just add to that. So this right here is modifying the approval, whereas the intersection issue is more of addressing a construction.
Okay. You don't think it
That'd be like a punch list item, for instance.
Okay, we can leave that. All right.
I have a question. How, if it's currently, if the pitch is, if they are at a negative pitch on it, and it's gonna end up being too great, how would, from a punch list standpoint, you're essentially saying, okay, your punch list is you have to go grind this all back out, or is it just a?
Yeah, I mean, worst case, you just cut out however much of the roadway that you need to be able to reestablish the proper grades. And you would do that before the wearing course is put on. So before they put the wearing course on, you go through, have a site walk, generate a punch list, address any issues, and then that would probably be one thing that would come up.
You can figure that out pretty easily, Andrew. You can do cores in the existing pavement beforehand, so you'll know the distance, or depth of pavement, and you'll know how far they can go without reaching their limit.
So you want a motion to go with this?
Well, this is just a preliminary consultation.
Okay.
So I think the guidance you were giving the applicant is that you would like to see the subdivision plan amended with option B.
Option B, okay.
And if they were to come back with that amendment, you would be inclined to review it favorably.
Sounds good. So would you like to return at the next meeting?
Yes, sir.
Tentatively November 5th. But we may think about shifting that since that's election day.
Currently, the deadline for submittal is the 16th. Would that give you ample time to be heard at the next meeting?
Well, I know it's going to be basically an amended subdivision plan. However, even Josh can attest, it's going to be one page and one detail that has.
I just want to make sure that that is a.
So it's like, we don't have this tree amount of paper to submit, so.
Okay. I just want to make sure that's a fair timeline turnaround for you.
We can get together and see what's needed.
Okay.
Abutters will also have to be
Of
renoticed,
course.
so there'd be a fee for that, but.
Yeah, we'll do that. Great,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, I'll open public hearing for one more. One of our friends, former.
Daniel, yeah, 334 Old Coney Turnpike. I have a lot of observation overlook. So anyone wants to know any information about it, you can call me. I'll tell you everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Closing public comment on this case. Next item on the agenda is 5B. Bridge at Green Hill Commercial, requesting additional parking for an amendment to the approval. So anyone just come forward, please? Thanks.
Good evening again, Scott Cole from Beal Associates. I also have John O'Neill from Stoneark. John O'Neill is the developer of the subdivision behind the town hall, and as well as the commercial building located directly across the street. I'm not sure how many members were here for the original approval. This is a multi-unit commercial building, which is located here, which is now existing. And in the back is a multi-unit garage building. Through time and the needs of the developer, they would like a request to amend the site plan, mostly for a change in the parking. Now, in the previous approval, located here in the orange over here, were 8 large oversized vehicle parking stalls for either buses, trailers, or what have you. Now that they are further along in the process, they realize the abundant large spaces are no longer needed. However, they may want to have more additional standard parking stalls. So this would result in the removal of pavement in orange. Now, this all used to be paved here, so we have orange there, and here, and the addition of a row of parking along the front on the other side of the aisle in front of the building. Now, this is actually a very minor revision, mostly due to the fact that this is actually a reduction in the amount of pavement on site. So this would be 1,700 square feet less pavement than it previously was approved for. All drainage still goes the same direction. It all goes down here into a swale, into a forebay, and then the existing pond out there. So the drainage is exactly the same. We have actually gone through the AOT criteria. This was a requirement for this site plan, was AOT permit in relationship to the overall project as well. Their standard criteria is actually met with this in the fact that it is a reduction. There are no added drainage structures to the site. And this is actually basically a notification to AOT that they're changing the site, but does not require an amended AOT permit. So it basically goes on record that there's a slight change. So that's what the client would like to request from the board. As I said, it's very minor. I updated the plans. For example, landscaping, you'll see in the plans that I provided, all the shrubbery and everything was outlining here. I basically moved it in to the side of the aisle, same amount of trees, same species, very simple modification. Lighting, we were already providing all the lighting areas for the pedestrians where they'd be parking at nighttime. So basically out front would be in excess for, the businesses in the bottom. Again, everything else is pretty straightforward, and I'll answer any questions that you have.
I had a question on the lighting plan. I see in the original plan it just about reached to the edge. Now you're adding 18 feet more of parking. In the darkest days of winter, will there be sufficient light available?
Yeah, well, the reason being is you still have all the parkings in the rear and then all of the front.
So
So
you don't
any of the
need to
residents
use-
are going to be home.
Yep.
They're going to be able to use all these spaces and not need to park on that location.
So the front would usually be for commercial.
It's really just for overflow.
Okay.
Net parking gain is only 13 spaces, because we have 21, but you got to minus the 8.
Yep.
So that's really all we're talking about.
Anybody else have questions? Anybody online with a question? I can open.
Is it time for me to ask a question?
Yeah.
Oh,
I just have one
Sure,
quick question.
sure.
I was looking at the original plan versus this plan.
Yep.
And I noticed for your high retention basin, I think it was, the original plan had a sediment floor bay on the upper right-hand corner of it.
This one?
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
no longer shown or called out or,
It is, they actually, Barry Survey went up, they did an as-built of the whole site, and you would see it better with 1-foot contours, but the floor bay is still right here.
oh, so that's current grades you're showing?
Yeah, this is all existing, all
Okay.
done, yeah. The riprap apron here, this is existing floor bay here. I'd have to check the data, I don't know if they cut internal shots or not, that specific.
Okay.
It was more for the site plan up
All
here.
right, yeah, I just want to make sure you're still having a sediment floor bay.
Yep, no, it's all still in place. Like I said, no structures. We're just gonna, by grade, bring it over to riprap apron into the same swale that was there previously and go right into the same floor bay.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there any landscaping going in on the street side of that?
Yes, sir. If you look at the landscape plan, you've got some North Star cherry, some crabapple, and red spire pear that will be, basically in the front of the area. So we'll have a crabapple roughly over here because we got the pond and we can't put it in there. Then we have some cherry trees that are going in this location here.
So the concrete block wall is what, 4 to 5 feet tall?
4 feet, yeah.
4 feet. Is there any plans to put a surface on it, like a stone surface?
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly, it's gonna, John wants to match the aesthetics of the building and keep it nice, so
Yeah,
you'll have
right.
some kind of,
Yeah, since you have a nice one along 125.
exactly, yeah, it'll be more in kind with that. Yeah, it's not gonna be just a standard
I think
concrete
the
wall.
landscaping also was, some were thinking about maybe some low azaleas or so forth along in front of the wall. Realize you have trees too, is that possible?
To put them in front of the wall?
Yeah, to kind of screen it. Because
we
in
could-
in addition to the wall, you're gonna have a barrier above that, is that correct?
Yeah, yes, or they could just put some landscaping blocks on top, like a decorative topping to keep cars from going over. The spots here is the existing septic system. So we could put landscaping here or a little here, but the remainder of all this is actually swale.
Swale, right?
Drainage.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering how to prevent the cars from tipping over there. Could you elevate it and maybe use a planter or something? Or instead of having a steel barrier, maybe doing something different?
We can certainly look at that, different options.
DOT uses sometimes wooden ones with heavy.
Yeah, timber rail or-
6x6s and
Yeah.
set ins.
Yeah, we can look at that,
Just consider that. Might look a lot nicer and neater from the road view.
certainly.
Because people are going 70 miles an hour at that point, so. Too much. Any questions? Anyone else? Nobody's online to discuss this. I will open public comment.
Is there anybody online that would have any questions about the application, the request for a minute of a site plan? If so, please raise your hand and put yourself off mute. We will give you a moment to respond. I don't see anybody online, Mr. Chairman, that'd like to speak.
Just had a couple of questions, unrelated to this specifically, but curious. I will close public comment. Thank you. The question on the facade, the original design, as you see on the second sheet you had presented, showed that each of the 8 segments would be stepped back 2 feet. Because there was a lot of questions, I wasn't on the board, but I watched it. There was a lot of questions about the 192-foot flat surface of the building may just be overwhelming. So the plan was approved to step back each one 2 feet. You'll see that on your second sheet, which you were still showing. Was that a field change?
I believe so. We have John O'Neill, the developer and owner
Okay.
here, so I'll let him talk about the building.
Okay.
Hello, John O'Neill with, let's see, which company is it gonna be? No, it's Stone Arch. So, yeah, we have an in-house architect. And so what we do is instead of doing those 2-foot jogs and taking up space, because it was a little tight in there, what we were trying to accomplish, we assimilated that with the designs and the vertical that took place out there.
Colors and so forth.
Yeah, exactly. Different features. So we went with the cedar shake look, we went with the stone look as well, and the board and batten look. So
I
we
also
thought,
had a question on the original design had 8 garages attached to the rear of the building.
yes,
And I see you've got 5, and then the office expanded.
we're making our own office on the left-hand side. So our office took up a
3
couple of
bays.
those garage space, yeah.
Okay,
And,
so that just extends out. Okay.
Yeah, so we actually took 2.5 of the spaces in there for ourselves.
Good, okay. Just
Thanks.
had those, just curious. Any other questions?
I'm just curious, how does that work? Because that's not how the plan set was approved.
Well, that's kind of what I was trying to get listed information, but they claim that they discussed it with the building department and did a field
Yeah, I
change.
believe everything he's done, he's gone through John Huckins, and basically they took 3 of the units as their own office.
And also the facade was made flat instead of 2-foot segments.
Jogged.
Vanessa, can you validate that that was amended in the record?
That was my next question. Could you amend the record with these changes, just for future reference, if anybody looks back? What is you're gonna do the as-builts when you finished at some point?
Yeah, I think there's one required.
Okay, yeah, they
Yeah.
are required.
I mean, the building, like you say, the building's actually as built now, but we'll have to do more.
I mean, the tough part is it's been changed, but it's not how it was
As
approved.
soon as they laid the foundation, you knew what was going on. 192-foot
Yeah.
straight foundation, they weren't jogged, so that was what, 18 months ago or so?
Some time ago.
So.
Sorry,
But it was inspected at that point, so.
But it doesn't meet plan.
We'll maybe call the sheriff. What are we gonna do?
How do we make sure it doesn't happen
You
again?
don't issue a CO, that's what you do.
Well, yeah, but we don't issue the COs.
I hear you.
If I may, and I've been doing this for a long time. I'm 71 years old, and I've built in 43 communities. So what happens is changes take place all the time. We're not building submarines out here. So we go out there, we build something, and then we as-built it. So right now, was a proposed plan, but it wasn't exact to detail. It's not that close. It never is, but it's within reason. So that's what's called an as-built, and that's why we as-built these subdivisions and sites afterwards. The homes out there, they're all different, and we have choices. And that's the stuff that we were able to do in our business. So trust me, the as-built, and Chris Berry, the surveyor, will tell you, he as-builts everything. They're not exactly as proposed. It just doesn't work out that way. So changes do take place, and it happens everywhere. So we get an inspection, the inspector looks at it, it was vetted through the whole department. So John Huckins looked at it, the department looked at it, they saw the process as it went through, and that's where we ended up.
I think that's the question I'm asking is, has that been done? And do we have record of that it was signed off by the?
Absolutely, we're actually insulating and drywalling, sprinklers are installed, so every bit of the process has gone to that point.
Is the condos, are they gonna be condos or?
They're gonna be townhouse rental up top, and downstairs, we're having one of my contractors says he wants to have a garage out back that he's gonna use, and his wife's gonna be an esthetician out front, so they're combining it, so it's hard, commercial's tough, we do a lot of mixed use, and it's a real battle, because, we did a lot in Dover, and, you get $1,000 a unit, you don't get a lot of money, it barely pays for itself, really what pays for it is the rental, believe it or not, the commercial is not a strong proponent, it doesn't work out well at all, unfortunately, so, as a good friend of mine in Dover did a big project, Chad Caggiolari in Point Place. He says, John, my commercial doesn't rent. It's not relevant. Apartments are renting upstairs, and the commercial's sort of the throwaway, just you're trying hard, and you hope you get somebody in there. But it's a good opportunity for people. But anywhere from $700 to $1,000 a unit is all you're getting for those units downstairs for rent. It barely covers it. So thank God.
Then to do 2 more buildings?
No, it didn't work out.
Didn't work out.
Yep. So
So you suspect that all the commercial space would be unused?
it'll be used, but it'll be the right price, so you don't make a lot of money doing it. So, you don't want to, I've seen situations where they'll say, we'll give you 3 months free, and somebody gets started, and you do whatever it takes to get, a butt in that seat, you really do, so, and you hope it works out. But that's not the money maker, it's really the apartments upstairs. So, it's just commercials.
Do you have any questions?
So field changes do happen.
Yep.
And different towns give their building inspectors different authority. I have a recollection of talking to someone about this the change to this building. I don't have a recollection about talking about the wall, but if that was an aesthetic thing and the aesthetics were achieved by the field change, it's probably fine. Vanessa can certainly go through the file and pull out all the communications with John Huckins, and we can talk about it. Enforcement is the selectman thing. But if John approved it, probably going to be hard to undo it, regardless of whether or not that was appropriate.
Well, it would be difficult to undo.
You can't undo,
Oh,
not without a lot.
there's ways.
Yeah.
Well, that's,
But I guess, how do you make sure it doesn't happen again if it should have?
Well, that's a question.
Well, we have a new building inspector, so we train better.
yeah, at that point, if he stood up and said, hey, this isn't going to work, then we would have certainly, but we submitted a, foundation plan, and once it was accepted, that's where it went, But we fully intended to make some changes. We make changes a
Foundation
lot.
would have been the key.
It would have been the key. But we make changes every time. It's not, and maybe we take liberty, but it's not an exact science, our business. It really isn't. So that's why I'm coming back here for the parking, because I thought maybe there would be different type of parking that would work, but this parking, I think, is going to suit the opportunity that maybe I may get some good commercial in there, which would be good for the town. Commercials are a strong thing if you can do it.
The garages behind, are they exclusively for use to the?
The homeowners, hopefully, is what I'm hoping, but we'll see what happens.
See what happens. Okay.
So.
'Cause I was wondering, eventually you had also parking in front of the garage doors.
Right, now we're going to switch the parking,
Shift
and,
them down.
yeah, I think it makes more sense. But
Does that impact any of the truck traffic?
not really, no.
Okay.
Like, this business is, you don't have all the answers. Houses, I have all the answers. Commercial, I don't have the answers. So as we get along, we say, this is going to work a little better, let's try this. So hopefully we can get the cooperation of the community, because everybody wants us to win. It's a win for the community if we win, so we're all trying.
Does the board have any more questions?
Yeah, I just have one note. So I volunteer for SCORE. It's a bunch of professionals who volunteer their time for small businesses, help them get up and going, or if they're already established, help them supercharge their business, if you will. I don't know if that would help attract anybody to this, but it's something that we at SCORE would be willing to help all the people that come in there. So be aware of that service.
It's funny, we're on 3rd Street in Dover, very vibrant. We bought the parking lot from the city of Dover. We built a beautiful building, and we've got a restaurant in one building. This has been 5 years. The other building is empty right now. We've been trying, we'll do whatever it takes to get somebody in there, but commercial's tough. And then the city said to us, we'll bring in people, we'll do what we can, but there's not a lot out there. There's a lot of empty commercial space, so it's a difficult scenario. In one town I built in, and I'm old, I've done a lot, but the mixed use on Route 38 in Tewksbury must be 500 units, empty. The town went to town meeting and said, we're going to allow you to do affordable housing on the whole first floor, which was mixed use commercial, because they were tired of seeing it be empty. So it's a good thought, but it doesn't really work, So wish it were better. Nobody even leaves the house anymore. Everything's delivered. It's a different world.
John, maybe we should be talking about this in our subcommittee when we're.
I was thinking about that. We have so many discussions about, mixed-use buildings, adding them, Christmas stuff and all that. I can't see that the town needs more commercial space.
And I have heard that in other towns as well, that it's really hard to fill the commercial space.
I mean, you hear people say, where do you go? They go to Epping or they go to Rochester for veterinary services, and they have their hair done out of town. I mean, you can't decide everybody in town is suddenly going to switch to a local person. Yeah, I agree with you. Housing's the thing, not commercial. Thank you.
How do we feel?
Where do we go from here?
So again, this is a preliminary
Town
consultation.
plan, right? So would you like to come back 5th?
As long as we have a positive straw poll.
May I ask a
Oh.
question to the board, just to clarify what you're looking for the applicant, so that I can understand
How
when he
does the wall
resubmits
sound
plans?
to everyone?
I think it would be best if it is in kind with maybe the stone wall that's out
Yeah.
front.
Yeah.
But has the same presentation.
That was your plan, John?
Yeah. Okay. And the landscaping is obvious on the plan, and stormwater's handled fine, so.
Yep, yes, sir.
Lighting you don't think is a problem?
But time is of the essence, and unfortunately, we're trying to get this wrapped up because we want to get it paved this season. So.
All right, so that's the sense of the board that.
So I can move forward, take a chance, and go at risk.
I just
and
have a
hopefully-
quick question
Oh,
for the
sure.
board too. So, with the resubmittal of the plan set, you're looking to have him add the stone wall updated landscape plan. Do you want, just so that everybody is aware, do you want the town engineer to review the change in drainage and the change in parking? We hear from the applicant that there may not be real changes, but I mean,
Josh, do
there's
you
just
have
something to
a
consider.
viewpoint on
What
this? Are
changes
these
in-
minor changes or?
We can
you
give them a
think this-
cursory review if the town wants us to, but,
Trying to get your sense of
and they seem pretty straightforward
elementary
changes.
changes, right?
Yeah, we're not gonna compare them against the site plan regs.
Hold up anything if they know that
Yeah.
needs to read potential.
Just done a lot of field changes, okay?
We will actually have a letter from AOT as well. Beth Ann didn't get back to us today, but so they are reviewing it in
Okay.
terms of drainage and everything, so.
Okay.
Oh,
It is already being looked at. It's safe.
Okay.
Yep. No, I
Okay.
think it's fine.
Does that consensus help you? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, Dennis, if you could send me a list or some notes of exactly what would be helpful.
Yes, I can. So I have the stone wall landscaping updated, the drainage and parking lot.
Yeah, the landscape
okay.
is updated.
Oh,
we
okay.
Removed that already.
Right, I see that on your
Yeah.
second sheet.
And that the drainage and parking lot is satisfactory to the board, as long as the new AOT permit is.
Okay. Great, thank you, everyone.
Take care.
And the butters will also have to be re-notified.
Okay, next item is 6A, item number 1, 240-8-NR-23, sub 20 (22) revised, Young Road LLC. Good evening.
Good evening, members of the board, Mr. Chair. Christopher Berry with Berry Surveying and Engineering, representing Paul here this evening. We don't have a whole lot of new information to present to you. Since our last couple of public hearings, we've had a back and forth with Josh at CMA. A few comments came out of that required very few updates to the plan. We've resubmitted them back to Josh. There's a couple of just follow-up comments he'd like us to review with the chief, but they all seem pretty innocuous at this point. Part of that review found that we needed one additional waiver. We do have a 2-to-1 side slope at the front of lot 8-17. I misunderstood your rules. You actually allow 2-to-1 side slopes in fill situations, but not 2-to-1 side slopes in cut situations. That happens to be a cut situation, and so there's a small section of roadway that requires that waiver. We've submitted the bylaws for the proposed project, and I think as we indicated as part of our last public hearing, we have reached out to Southeast Land Trust and have started a dialogue with them on taking the remainder open space number 4. If you'll all remember, open space areas 1, 2, and 3 will remain with the HOA, whereas they have drainage structures on them and other vested interest in making sure that those areas are not open to the public. Open space area number 4 would be open to the public. Other than that, Vanessa has prepared a notice of decision for us. I think we're in agreement with the notice of decision. We have received Fish and Game approval, and alteration of terrain will have a letter back to us in the next week or so. We have filed for state subdivision approval, so we've submitted all of the required permits. That
Questions at this point before we go to the waiver? Would you like to read the waiver?
Absolutely, I would.
Thank you.
So identification of the waiver, 1286, parens 1, roadway cut slopes, 2 horizontal to 1 vertical feet, no steeper than 3 to 1 vertical feet is allowed, and we're proposing on Gingerbread Drive, approximately between station 7+75 and 12+50, that the cut slope behind the swale is 2 to 1. Just before I get into all the details, one thing I would point out is most likely when somebody develops that lot out, that slope would be laid back. So at the end of the project, that slope likely will not remain at 2 to 1, and it will be at 3 to 1 or likely flatter. So explanation, the requirements of the town of Barrington subdivision regulations are to provide a 3-to-1 maximum slope in cuts and a 2-to-1 maximum fill slope in road sections. The applicant is proposing a 3-to-1 cut slope, 4 slope everywhere in the project, with the exception of this one 2-to-1 slope, which is on the back of the swale. So it doesn't affect stormwater drainage, it doesn't affect wheel grabbing, it doesn't affect any entrance into the swale. This is on the back side of the swale. Granting the waiver will properly carry out the purpose and intent of the regulations. The purpose and intent is in requiring certain cut and fill slopes along the roadways for vehicular safety. As I pointed out, this is behind the swale, so the 4 slope isn't a safety issue. Additionally, these slopes are to be stabilized so that they aren't a constant erosive issue. They're proposed to be stabilized with non-woven natural fiber erosion control fabric. Again, not using a plastic product based on the sensitivity of the site. Strict conformity of the regulations would pose an unnecessary hardship to the applicant. Laying the slope back at a 3-to-1 would pose an unnecessary hardship to the applicant because it doesn't need to be laid back at a 3-to-1. It would require more material come out of the bank than is necessary for the road to be constructed.
Prior to opening it to public comment, the board have any questions on the waiver?
The only question I had, and I think it's perfect that Josh is here, would there be any concern about snow loading into that because it doesn't have it won't wing the snow back as far? I know it's got the drainage, but will it load that swale?
I think it's a pretty short length, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and just so that we all don't have to whip the plans open. That's because that's a cut slope. The town actually requires a 6-foot shoulder for that very purpose, and we are maintaining the 6-foot shoulder.
Perfect. Thank you.
No more questions? Anybody? Josh, that was, okay.
Is there anybody online that would like to comment on the waiver only at this point for this application? If so, you can please unmute yourself or raise your hand. We'll give you a moment to respond. Mr. Chairman, I don't see anybody that would like to comment on the waiver.
I am closing public comment. Is there a motion to grant the waiver?
Waiver.
Second that, roll call.
Shepherd, aye.
Napa.
Capello, aye.
Tessie, aye.
Driscoll, aye. Okay,
Thank you for that.
okay.
And you said you've made all the changes related to CMA's comments?
Yeah, Josh had a couple of follow-up questions. He just wants us to double check a couple of things with the fire department. There may be 1 or 2 minor drafting issues, but.
Josh, I have all your comments here highlighted, so everything's been pretty well resolved.
Yeah. We're going to talk about the 2 points I brought up after the fact. Yeah, so Vanessa checked with the fire department on, so the turnaround locations are at about the midpoint of Daffodil and whatever the other road name is. And it's atypical because usually turnarounds are at the end of the road. And fire chief was not in favor of the turnaround being at that location.
But I see a daffodil that would put in the wetlands setback
It
buffer.
would, yes, it would be in
In the buffer, like 50 feet.
correct.
Yeah, and I would just point out that,
Might be a topographic issue there too.
yeah, but also the turnaround's not needed at distances over 150 feet in length or less than 150 feet in length per the NFPA Code 101, Chapter 18. So long as the turnaround is not longer, or the distance between the turnaround and the end of the roadway is not longer than that, then we comply with NFPA.
Okay. Same with Fiddlehead.
Yes.
Okay.
I can't speak to that. I have no idea. No.
Okay. Oh, we should open it again for public comment on the application. I am open to public comment. Anybody online for the application.
Is there anybody online that would like to make a comment or have any questions? This public comment period for the application? If so, unmute yourself and we'll give you a moment to respond. Mr. Chairman, I don't see anybody that would like to speak for or against the application during the public comment period online.
Okay, I will close public comment. Would you like to start reading the NOD? Remember, it's been reported to us that most towns do not read them. Not required according to the attorney. So I would like to make a motion of privilege that we no longer have to read the NODs. Roll call.
Shepherd, aye.
Just to have a,
Wait, I still need a motion. You need a motion.
oh,
Need a motion to approve as written.
I'm getting a little ahead of myself. The motion, this is on,
Changes. If there's no changes that you would set, your motion would be.
that we don't have to read it anymore, as long as there are no changes. Is that what you're suggesting?
Well,
No, but.
is that what you were intending a vote on?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
sorry.
That's
You
what
thought I was
thought.
doing the NOD?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
no.
did.
Oh, no.
Shepherd, aye.
We just want to get a sense of the board that they all
I
agree.
appreciate it.
Unless anybody says no, has to read the NOD. Go ahead.
Suchi, aye. Gabriella, aye.
That's your high.
Driscoll, aye. Okay. Oh,
Yep.
It's true, because
I was with you guys.
I make a lot of mistakes here, you know.
I'm not voting.
Had a few breaks for the old guy, you know. Okay, so we need a motion to grant the NOD, notice of decision. Is there a? I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Aye.
Suchi, aye. Gabriella, aye.
Tessie, aye.
Driscoll, aye. Okay.
Thanks, guys.
That was easy.
Well, I thought we'd get to November so we could hit the 2-year mark on this, but I guess we missed it.
Thanks for everybody's efforts.
Okay, take care.
Chris, can you send me a copy of that NFPA code?
Yeah.
Just so I can see it.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you very much.
Good to see
Thank
everyone.
you. All right. Item number 2, we have 101-52 and 53-GR-24 LL, Peter and Peggy Shaw. They are requesting a continuance to November 5th. Thank you very much. Good seeing you too.
Hey, Josh.
Take care, Josh. Thank you very much. So is there a motion to grant the continuance to November 5th on this application?
Make a motion.
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Shepherd, aye.
Nap aye.
Suchi, aye. Gabriella, aye.
Tessie, aye.
Driscoll, aye. Okay. Next item, item number 7, Class 6 private road applications. Review or request building permit for Nathan and Kerry Gray, 345 Dry Hill Road. For Category 3, Option 2 from the Class 6 private road policy. Hello.
Do we not have this?
Nathan Gray, 345 Dry Hill Road. And if I may approach, I'm just going to give you guys some paperwork here. I don't believe I have enough. It's kind of a full house here, but some images of the Class 6 road laid out. I'll keep one for myself here. I'm gonna sorry, I have to share a little bit.
Sure.
I don't need one. I just need one for the file, so at the end if someone can.
You have my copy.
Okay.
So the overview, Dry Hill Road is classified as a Class 6 road and spans approximately 1,800 feet in length of the total road. Of the total road, around 1,500 feet already meet the current road standards. The standards for Class 6 road requires a 16-foot wide traveled surface with 2-foot shoulders on either side. The road and its shoulders must be constructed and maintained to support the weight of a fire engine throughout the year. Additionally, the road should have a proper established and maintained crown to facilitate drainage. All surfaces must be finished with a minimum of 4 inches of crushed gravel. The road features a total of 6 pull-offs, areas for emergency vehicles, spaced no more than 500 feet apart, with some areas having closer spacing. All of them but one is closer spacing than 500 feet. So I've surveyed the road by laying out marker stakes every 100 feet. Each stake laid out provides insight into the existing conditions and the necessary work to bring the road up to the required standard. And the numbers didn't come out on the images, so I just wrote them in here. But each number corresponds with an image if you want to kind of flip through. Some of the things didn't turn out right. But essentially, as it says up above, as you go through these images and numbers, you can see the kind of what meets the road standard. You can see the image to go along with it, and then the proposed work that I would do to that area to bring this whole Class 6 road up to standard, getting it off of the red list. So the proposed work on Dry Hill Road focuses on bringing the entire road up to Class 6 standard by adding crushed stone, road pack, and ensuring proper drainage with a maintained crown. The road includes a total of 6 pull-off areas for emergency vehicles, all spaced within 500 feet apart, with many areas being closer. Key sections that require attention, particularly Section 3, will have topsoil removed, and other areas will receive additional material to ensure compliance. As emergency vehicle pull-offs will also be established in one section. There's one section that needs some work to be able to have another pull-off there. So I am proposing to bring the road up to the standards. It's very close to it already, which I was saying I'm trying to relay on the last meeting, that the road is very close to being to the standard already.
So you've been talking to the road agent about this, any of this?
Yep, I talked to Mark as well. Yep, and the fire chief.
Oh, okay.
But he didn't really have too much to say on it.
All right.
It's all pretty flat.
Now, the fact that the red listed road, how does that impact anything? Do you have the expertise?
Actually, I don't, and I'm confused by that myself now after this last meeting.
Okay.
So being red listed, does that mean he can't come before us until the road is brought up to Class 6 standards?
I can't do any construction to the road until I get permission.
That is an excellent
It's
question.
a conundrum.
Hence my
That would be a question for the select board to answer, to help clarify for us. I can have, I know Joyce is here, but I can have maybe Connor bring it up at the next meeting to clarify that as well, maybe.
At the Class 6 Road Committee meeting, what
thought
was discussed was, it's a red listed road, nothing can happen
right.
until that road is brought up to standard.
Right.
Right. So, I mean, I guess he's proposing to bring it up to standard.
Mm-hmm.
But he'd have to do that prior to, not.
So from what I understand too, is they can't get probably a certificate of occupancy.
But according to the red list, you can't get a building permit.
Good point.
So you're the first person under this.
Oh, I feel like it. I'm a pathfinder here on this one.
So for the board, I guess you could recommend to the select board. I mean, I don't want to hold him up any. I mean, that's of course obviously up to y'all, but to hold him up any longer, if it's something that needs to be held up by the select board, this case may shed light on that inconsistency that
So
was
you're
found.
asking the select board to the select board. Yeah, to
So,
interpret
well, yeah.
what
Well,
is
technically,
meant.
we're only
Maybe.
here to send a recommendation to the select board.
So I guess our
So you could
recommendation
add
would
a
be for you to
recommendation
review
into.
the red list. And as it says, if the road is brought up,
Which would then imply that you have permission to work on the road.
right, you would
So I
be
guess
given
that's the
permission.
interpretation.
I could find out that answer, but I don't have that answer tonight. So if you don't recommend him, he's just going to have to wait another
Well,
week
next
or
select
so?
board is October 2nd.
I think it's next week.
Like,
No, it's next week.
Monday,
It's
so
next
it'll be
week.
the 7th,
Right.
I
He
believe.
wouldn't-
Butters had to be notified for his application, so he would not be heard at the 7th
Okay. 22nd,
meeting.
I think, is it?
And I don't know when the next one's the 22nd, I
Yeah,
think
whatever
you
that Monday
said.
is, 22nd,
Um, So I guess I would leave it up to the board if you want me to try to get that answer. I could have it for you at the next meeting. Or you could recommend, I guess, to the select board and have them discuss it there because it's
October 21st is
policy.
the next select board meeting.
I think too, with it being so close as well, is it who approves it getting off of the red list? Like if there's work to be done.
That's an excellent question.
I'll ask the committee members.
I guess the select board.
Select board, they're the
It's the
ultimate.
authorizing
Yep.
agency for the building permit, so I think that
Correct.
they could shed light on what he would have to do.
Who deems it onto the red list?
I want to know who went out there and measured it because it was
The,
very close.
I believe the fire
The
chief
fire chief is
was the one that
put the red
determined the
list
list
together.
due
So
to
wouldn't the
emergency
fire chief
service.
Technically have to be the person to remove it from?
Or at least recommend
Right,
removal
right.
to the select board.
No,
Yeah.
he won't do. I talked to him. He's standing fast. He's probably never been out there with the tape measure, is what my concern is. But with his visual inspection, he feels as if he put it on the red list for a reason, was standing fast with it. I try to come up with all sorts of different other things.
If it
Like,
meets the requirement, it should be cleared from the red list.
Right.
It's not a, I don't like this road. It's,
Right.
this is the standard, does it meet the standard?
And sounds like he's proposing to meet that.
Yeah, it's
Right.
Standard,
six
so-
pull-offs for the fire department
Yep.
and so forth.
Yeah.
and I guess what I'm trying to accomplish is to get the building permit as soon as possible. I've been going through this process maybe 6 months or so. So whatever we can do to help progress that building permit too.
Well, our power is to recommend. So we could recommend to the select
Put it
board to
out there.
review the policy, specifically having
Can
Dry Hill on that.
What's the chief's reticence about it? Do we know?
going to be catastrophic events if there was a fire? I don't know. He
They
wrote
can't
something.
turn around just out on the road, and they have pull-offs but not turnarounds, and it's well, I mean, it's a mess according to him. It would require them to back up potentially, and
But it still meets the standard.
Well, the proposal would
There's no-
more
Yeah,
than meet
the
the
proposal
standard right
makes sense.
now. It doesn't, but
There's no, not on the red list. There's nothing to do. That doesn't say anything. Or the standard. There's no like turnaround. Am I right? There's no
Well, for a
turn.
new road, there would be.
right, for a
For
new
a new
road
road.
it would be, but you have
Yeah.
you have an existing
Yeah.
road.
And then I would have to measure at the end there where the reservoir, the Rochester Reservoir is. They've cut off a lot of space, and I know that I could work with Rochester too. And I believe, hey, I was right last time. Just saying, but I believe that a fire truck could turn around in that at the end of the road before you go up the driveway too. So if I needed to move some rocks around or whatever, I could get permission from Rochester too to do that.
What your recommendation was, like,
right.
if you feel like you said.
I think he's proposing to satisfy him.
Yep. That we have to decide whether the select board will amend their policy to allow work to be done on the road so that it meets the standard. Isn't that what we're looking at?
I think that
Not
should
that
be
it
our
meets this.
that should be our recommendation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And once the
I mean, it's
road
not
is approved,
It's unusual.
then the building permit could
but-
be issued.
Right.
I
Does
would
that
say,
sound logical?
I would say that almost has to be part of the requirement is if you're requesting the road to be improved, you have to issue him a building permit at that point. You can't hold the guy hostage over it.
Right.
Except that what if you issue the building permit,
No.
well, you wouldn't get the CO.
Right. Well, but I think you have to say, okay, the road is condition 1 in the building
Yeah.
permit.
Right,
can be.
yeah. You can't do
Condition
those in
two.
tandem. You got to do the road first.
So the proposed, I mean, see how it turns out, but essentially, like, typically you have a framing permit first. It's like road construction, then framing, then electrical, then plumbing, that type of thing. Like, it just gets inspection for the road first. I have to do that.
Correct.
Right.
And what happens if I have multiple crews and I've got one working on the road, one doing that? Is it, but, yeah, I guess if, however
I
you
think
wanna put it.
speaking for the fire chief, I'm trying to think like the fire chief, his argument's gonna be that if you're starting to do construction, you've got higher risk of fire, injury, accident.
Fair enough.
And if the road's not up to standard, they're not gonna be able to get there.
I think
Yeah, this could be done quick. I want to get it done before the colder weather anyway,
Right.
so.
yeah, do the road and
Yeah.
then you'd be in better shape here.
I mean, you say do the road, is I have permission to do the road, or do I do?
Well, that's our that's gonna be
That's the
our,
recommendation. to
So
allow
I've gotten permission to fix the potholes, cut back the branches, and that's, it's
you-
opened all of our eyes to be able to see down the road, and I encourage you to go down there and take a look of it. Bring a tape measure if you like. And I think that, does that fall within there? Like, can I put, essentially all I'm doing is putting additional road pack and crushed stone on the road, which is just like a surface thing. It's not, I'm not re-engineering it, I'm not twisting it, I'm not turning it. Like, I'm just like securing the shoulders better. Is that considered maintenance, or is that considered construction?
So I wasn't here at the last meeting, but the entire road will be 16 plus 2 plus 2?
Yes.
Okay. So that means our standard. right?
Meets the standard.
So it's just the question of, you want the select board to be able to say you can start the work now.
Right, because he can't without their okay.
And then we should amend the policy for going forward for everybody.
Right.
Yeah, and does
Right,
does
these-
my existing permission allow me to do these little changes?
Not until the select board gives you approval.
They've already given me approval for maintenance and such, and that's what I'm asking, is like, does the existing permission give me enough to do that? And maybe we can talk about this tomorrow or whatever. You can let me know if that's, if I'm.
So we gave you approval already?
no,
No.
to do maintenance, to
To
fill
do
potholes.
maintenance. Yeah.
Fill
okay.
potholes, cut back trees. There was a few things that were in there. Add additional road
But this
pack.
is more, but you're doing more.
Right.
Now you're
Do
gonna add,
pull-offs,
now you're gonna add
widening
the
shoulders.
material to the 16, 2 and 2. That's.
It sounds like it's cleaner if you come to the next select board meeting, but we can't do that because of the abutter, so it has to be the 22nd.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you could bring the question up.
Push for that.
You could probably bring the question up for the 7th, but his application wouldn't be.
Can we at least
Heard
a-
at the 7th.
Can we ask if that falls? Can the question be, does the additional road pack, and again, it's just adding a little bit more material, is that, can it, we get a vote to see if that's within the purview of the permission that I already have obtained?
Okay, so that's a different question. That's a new question.
Is that possible to be able to do that?
We're not the authorizing agency, so I.
Yeah, we're
I
not
don't-
To go to the select board and ask the select board.
But
could
you're
it just-
asking, can that
I'm a-
question come to the select board? at the
Yes, I'm
next
asking, can
select
that
board
be the
meeting?
question? Can the question be that putting road pack, additional road pack and shoring up shoulders, is that, and removing soil that has come into the road, there is some areas, is that within the permission that I already got, or not?
Oh, it seems cleaner to come
He-
first.
Nah,
Okay.
I was saying-
I'm just trying to get
Joyce,
this done.
would he be able to
I'm
come on the
reaching.
7th, like during public comment period, and ask that
That's what I was
question?
thinking. Or new business on the 7th, could you get a sense from the board if they would be willing to end the class 6 red list? I think that's.
Oh, I
would be
think
the
he's
first
asking
step.
a couple different things. He's
Yeah.
asking if he can already do the work that he's thought he's been authorized to do by the select board.
Yeah, I'm under the perception that I can do this work with the existing permission. And
Okay, so come for clarification of that.
yes,
I don't know how that'll go.
okay. That's what I'll put out there. Yeah.
You probably could come to the select board meeting on the 7th and ask that question there.
Okay.
Because they're not, the planning board's not the authorizing
Okay,
agency.
all right, I'll come there for that then, for that particular part, and then,
Okay,
guys
so
wanna
we
give a
need to make a
recommendation?
recommendation to the select board.
and then make,
Do you recommend to approve the application as submitted with the material submitted tonight? And then whatever you want to add on to that? I don't know how you guys want to recommend. So are you okay with this application going forth right now?
Got it.
Well, it seems like we need clarification of the policy, and that's really the question. There are two separate questions.
Correct.
You can come in public comment and ask your question. I have no idea what the select board will think about that. But
Happy
the
to do
next
that.
question, I would think the select board would be amenable to fleshing out the bigger question.
That's,
How
that's
does
on,
somebody
that's
who's
on
on the
your
red
part.
listed do that work and get it off the
Recommendation
red
at this
list?
point.
That seems like something.
Yeah,
But do we actually have one?
I mean,
Because we're not making a decision.
We are meeting next
Our recommendation is he goes to the select board.
Yeah.
I mean,
you That's guys the don't breadth have of the it, right? authority
Yeah.
as the planning board, to tell
well, okay, so could we make a recommendation that this goes to the select board to get an explanation of the policy
That be it?
based
Well-
upon the fact that we're uncertain how he removes it from the red list and when he can start working?
Right.
Yeah.
I'll second that motion.
But do you approve what he submitted plus what he submitted tonight to move forward, but you're, to make sure that he can be off the red list, so he can do the work?
Yeah, I guess.
Yes, but then he's gonna come in public comment with a slightly different question.
Right. From what?
See if I can fast forward it a little bit.
Would you like to have these back so you
I
can give
need
them
one
to the
for the-
5 minutes?
I need one, we need one for our file.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
got
and
one.
then you can print and copy. There,
For-
they
for
are.
all 5
That's a
members of
gift
the
from
board.
me to you. I do not, I do not need it back.
Okay.
I've got one too.
Well, I guess what John was trying to say was, if you took them
Oh,
back, you could bring them to the select board.
Yeah, 5 copies for the select board and save you
All
a
right,
little,
thank you for the
coloring,
clarification.
that's
Yeah,
all.
yeah, sure, I'll take them back.
Okay.
I would just like to comment, this was very helpful, and thank you for putting that.
Was very good, yeah, very detailed.
It's not easy to get over everything,
Okay.
I'm sure you had probably
Actually,
many
can I
hours
keep that one?
invested in marking
Oh,
that
yeah.
all out and like.
Can I just keep that one?
She's on the select board.
She's
so
on the
she'll have
select
it.
board,
And
so,
I'm gonna attend remotely, so I'd like to.
thank you.
take this. I'm all set now, right?
All right,
Whew.
I think we're getting closer.
Next.
Okay. Next item, 7B. Review and request for building permit for Joe Wilson, Finney Way, map 256, lot 2, for category 3, option 1, from class 6 private road policy. Hello.
Joe Wilson, 79 Finney Way, Barrington. I met with the road agent out there, and he went back out and checked it and okayed everything. Did he give you guys a comment?
Okay.
He's online.
Yeah, the only outstanding issue would be the apron.
Yeah,
Paved
we
or
just,
should-
we discussed that.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Okay.
he said that's down, that can be down the road.
When you're all done, the
I
building.
got concrete trucks
Yeah,
going
yeah,
out
I know.
there,
That
lumber
makes sense,
trucks.
yeah.
But he didn't say I had to do it. He's recommended.
Yeah. It's always a recommendation.
Yeah.
Usually the fire department wants that.
Yep.
Also, you don't break down the edge of the road if it's depressed a lot. Big trucks, fire trucks.
Yep.
Any questions? Okay, we need a recommendation to send to the select board. Anybody want to, a local wordsmith,
Make a motion to
approve?
send it to the select board for approval of a class 6 building permit
Right.
I'll second that.
As submitted, right?
as
As
submitted.
submitted.
Roll call.
Shepherd, aye.
Nap aye.
Suchi, aye.
Did somebody second it?
Yeah, yeah, he did.
Driscoll on. Okay,
Thank you.
let's go into the select board.
One,
You can check with the select board when it'll be on their agenda.
yep,
It'll probably be at the, you said the 21st?
21st.
Most likely the 21st agenda, because they have to notify abutters because it's category 3.
yep, October.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, any new business?
I believe Vanessa does.
I do. I have a couple of things. As you first, so I don't forget. I know I had sent out an email that the town, Connor had submitted on behalf of the town, the Housing Opportunity Planning Grant Phase 2 and reference to help fund the master plan implementation that we had of one bidder. And so I would just like to ask the board to grant a letter of support for it.
I have to sign that too. Right?
Yeah. If, I don't know if you guys want me to read it or
Well,
not,
I mean, the
but
main
the
thing
letter.
is it's requesting $100,000, right?
Correct. So I think the actual like submit of the grant was like 10 cents shy, I think, or something like that. The way that it shook out, yeah, literally like 10 cents shy, but yes.
Close to state money.
Anybody, I don't know if you want to make a motion.
To support the letter that was crafted by the town planner
Yeah.
for the grant.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Roll call.
Snap on.
Got the other one.
That's your eye.
Let's go on.
Just don't forget to sign that because I need to get it in the mail or the email. Here. Okay. Just one other thing, there was a discussion right before the meeting started about our meeting dates in November. The first meeting, Tuesday in November, is actually voting. So there was a discussion of possibly moving that date either to Wednesday the 6th or the week after. So I guess I want to see the board's thoughts if you wanted to or needed to change that.
Wednesday, the 6th.
I don't have a problem with Tuesday. I don't have a problem with Wednesday.
Let's do Wednesday.
It would be easier on us for Wednesday for our office. That way we already have like the submittal dates and everything already set. So an extra day won't hurt us at
I
all.
say
but-
yes.
I mean, of course, I want to make sure I have a quorum though. So that's more important.
Likely not.
Wednesday?
Likely not.
Okay.
Okay.
I think you have a quorum.
Get 4 members. That's fine. Okay. That's okay. Okay.
Ron should be back by then. So, okay. So we'll move that. Can I? Yeah, it'll just be Wednesday the 6th instead.
And when do we meet again?
We actually, so this is fun. The next 3 Tuesdays, or next two Tuesdays, we are meeting on the 8th. We are, I just confirmed, I know that we wanted to have a guest speaker come in to talk about the housing, kind of like workforce housing or that sort of thing. I was able to secure it with Ryan Pope, who's the housing navigator of Dover. In addition to that, because I wanted to make sure the meeting was worthwhile, we discussed our zoning amendments before and have them drafted up from our September 3rd meeting for the board to look at and approve to move forward to the attorney so she can draft those ballot questions so we can try to get our first public hearing over and done with. I'm sure there'll probably be more than one because, well, if there's any petition warrant articles, there'll be another public hearing, but at least we'll have this first phase. And if the consultant that's doing the grant, if they have any to propose, I'm sure we'll have more in the future. And then on the 3rd Wednesday is CIP.
Of October.
Yes, that's the 17th.
So we have the
15th?
8th and then the 15th.
Yes.
Just to let you know, I won't be here at either of those 2 meetings.
Okay. I mean, if there's conflicts, let me know, too.
Mr. Knapp has to be here.
Maybe.
We'll call ahead, because otherwise we'll.
Well, I can't ask Ron because I know he's on vacation.
Because we may never get to the petition warrant article.
That's on October 8th. Yeah. I'll give them all the information then.
Been through enough hosings on that one.
Okay. So you guys gonna be here? You guys, 4 of you gonna be here next week? Is that what we're saying? Yes?
In fact, I was saying you can.
I'll be here next week.
You'll be here next week?
Yeah, I'm here.
And the other two, you two will be able to make it next week? Okay. It should be relatively short, I would think.
Petition warrant articles open.
That's what Barb said about this one.
I'll bring at the next meeting, I'll bring the flyer that has it to it.
All right, thank you.
It has like when it opens and then when
Yeah,
it closes.
opens and closes. I know it's a very
Little sheet.
specific window.
Yeah. And that's all I have,
Especially after the last go around.
unless there's any other questions,
Make
that's all I
a
have.
motion to adjourn.
Thank you,
Second.
Bob.
Roll call.
Nap by.
Capella, aye.
Tessie, aye.
Thank you very much, everyone.